Some mysteries arrive from the sky, a light above a hill, a shape in the clouds, a silver thing moving against the stars. But this one came from beneath the earth, not with thunder, not with fire, not with a prophecy carved into stone. Just a field in Suffolk, a harvest, a village, a pit dug long ago to trap wolves. And two children standing where no children should have been, a boy and a girl, lost, frightened, strangely dressed, speaking a language no one could understand. And according to medieval chroniclers who preserved their story, their skin was green. The village was Woolpit, and the story of the green children has never entirely gone away. The mystery remained. Where had they come from? Were they lost children, or something stranger still? And what does a world do when children arrive from somewhere it cannot understand? And what does it do to a child afterward when the wonder fades and only the ordinary judgments remain? The green children of Woolpit, from St. Martin's land, a place of eternal twilight, with the moon for a sun. The green children, they came through a cave into our world, a place of bright daylight, and a language they couldn't understand. Woolpit lies in Suffolk, a place whose name remembers an older danger, wolf pits. Holes dug into the earth to trap the animals that once haunted the edges of human settlement. The name itself feels like a warning, a village built beside an opening, a place where the earth had already been wounded. The story is usually placed in the 12th century during the reign of King Stephen, a reign so violent and lawless that English chroniclers gave the period its own name, the Anarchy. Civil war, broken law, a countryside where armies moved like weather. It is in this unstable world that the children appear. Harvesters are working in the fields near the pits. The day is ordinary. The work is ordinary. Then the impossible steps out. Two children are found near the mouth of the pit. They are human in shape, but not in appearance. Their clothes are unfamiliar. Their speech cannot be understood. Their skin is green. No one knows who they are. No one knows where they have come from. No one knows how they have arrived. The villagers take them in. They are brought to the household of Sir Richard de Calne, a local landowner. And there the mystery becomes less like a marvel and more like a wound. The children weep. They are hungry. They are terrified. But when food is placed before them, they refuse it. Bread means nothing to them. Meat means nothing. The ordinary food of this world is strange. Then someone brings beans. The children see the green stalks and suddenly respond. They tear at them, searching for food inside the plant itself. When they cannot find what they expect, they cry. Only when the pods are open and the beans shown to them do they eat. For a time, beans are the only food they will accept. It is a tiny detail, but it gives the story its strange pulse. Not jewels, not fairy fruit, not golden apples from the other world. Beans. The miracle is hungry, the marvel is malnourished, the other world has dirt under its fingernails. Gradually the children begin to eat ordinary food, and as they do, their green colour fades. The boy, the younger of the two, is weak. He does not survive for long. The girl lives. She is baptized. She learns English. She grows into the world that found her. And when she can finally speak to the people around her, she tells them where she came from, or tries to. Because some places cannot be translated cleanly. One of the two main medieval accounts comes from William of Newburgh, an Augustinian canon writing in the 1190s. And if that name sounds familiar, it is because we have encountered him before in my film about English vampires. William is one of our most important sources for the medieval revenants, the restless dead said to rise from their graves. His account of the Green Children appears in the same work, the Historia Rerum Anglicarum. That gap matters. William is not writing as a witness. He is writing roughly 40 years after the events he describes, gathering a story that has already passed through other mouths before it reaches his pen. He admits that the story is difficult to believe. He records it anyway because, he says, it is too well attested by too many credible witnesses to simply discard. In William's version, the children say they come from a place called St. Martin's Land. A Christian land, a place with churches, a place where the name of a saint is known. But not a place like ours. There, they say, the sun does not shine with the brightness of our world. Their country exists in a half-light, a dimness, a perpetual green twilight. Well, not night exactly, not day. The kind of light that belongs to thresholds. The children also speak of another land nearby, brighter than their own, separated from them by a broad river. This detail turns the story into a map. A dark country, a bright country, a river between them. It feels less like geography and more like a dream remembered after waking. When asked how they came to Woolpit, the children say they had been tending their father's flocks. Then they heard bells. Some versions describe the sound as being like the bells of St. Edmund's Church. The children followed the sound, or were confused by it, or somehow carried away by it. And suddenly they found themselves in the fields of Woolpit, among the harvesters, beneath a sun too bright for them to bear. William gives us a wider mythic shape, a twilight land, a boundary river, a bell heard across worlds. His version does not explain the mystery, it deepens it. It suggests that the children did not come from a monstrous place. They came from somewhere ordered, inhabited, religious and dim. Not hell, not wilderness, a neighbouring world, close enough for bells to cross. The second major account comes from Ralph of Coggeshall, abbot of a nearby monastery, compiling his Chronicon Anglicanum sometime between 1184 and 1224. Ralph's version feels more immediate, more physical, and perhaps more heartbreaking, and there is a reason for that. He claims to have heard the story directly from Richard de Cowney himself. Not a rumour passed hand to hand across the county, a man telling Ralph what happened under his own roof. That does not make the story true, but it changes the texture. This is not folklore drifting in from nowhere. This is testimony, second-hand but close. And in Ralph's telling, the route between worlds becomes clearer. The children had been following their flocks. They entered a cavern. Inside they heard bells, beautiful bells. They wandered through the passage for a long time, drawn by the sound, moving through darkness, not knowing where the path would lead. Then they emerged, not gently, not into twilight, into our sunlight. The brightness overwhelmed them. The air was strange, the landscape was strange, the people were strange. And when the villagers approached, the children tried to flee, but the entrance had vanished. The door home was gone. That is the detail that gives Ralph's version its ache. Because this is not only a story of arrival, it is a story of being unable to return, a story of children trapped on the wrong side of the world. In William's account, the mystery is cosmic. In Ralph's, it is emotional. William gives us St. Martin's Land. Ralph gives us the Lost Doorway. And between them, the green children become something more than a medieval curiosity. They become the children of the in-between. Neither wholly fairy nor wholly human, neither wholly explained nor wholly impossible. They belong to that old landscape of caves, bells, rivers, pits and vanishing paths. The places where medieval people imagined the world could open. There are not many true sister stories to Woolpit. That is important. The green children are not simply one example in a long chain of identical green-skinned children appearing across Europe. The Woolpit case is unusually specific. 2 children, green skin, unknown speech. Beans, a twilight homeland, a passage through the earth. There are later tales that appear to imitate it. One supposed case from Spain, sometimes called The Green Children of Baños, looks suspiciously like a copy of the Woolpit story, with names and details that seem far too close to the English original. It may be less a second-hand mystery, more an echo wearing borrowed clothes. There is also a quieter German variant, a green girl said to have emerged from a cave, alone, far from any village. Thinner in detail, harder to date, but it tells us the same image was loose in the European imagination, in more than one place and more than one century. A child, a cave mouth, a colour that should not belong to skin. But while Woolpit may almost be alone as a true green child story, it is not alone as a threshold child story. For that we can look into another medieval writer, Gerald of Wales. Gerald tells us of a boy often called Elidir, who is said to have entered an underground realm after encountering small people. He travels through a passage into another country, a place with fields, rivers and inhabitants, but not lit like our own world. Again we find the same deep structure, a child, an opening in the earth, a hidden people, a land beneath or beside our own, a light that is not ordinary daylight. The colour green is not the key in that story, the key is the crossing. These tales belong to a wider medieval imagination in which the earth was not sealed. Caves were not just caves, pits were not just pits, hills were not just hills. They were mouths, entrances, places where someone might wander too far and find the world had changed its rules. In fairy traditions, children vanish and return altered. In changeling stories, a child may be replaced by something from elsewhere. In underworld tales, musical bells can lure travellers beyond familiar boundaries. The green children of Woolpit stand at the crossroads of these traditions. Not exactly fairies, not exactly ghosts, not exactly lost villagers. Something more fragile. Children caught between explanation and myth, and perhaps that is why the story survives. Of course, not every mystery needs another world. Sometimes the other world is what people call suffering when they cannot understand it. There are historical explanations, and one of them has a name, a date and a battlefield attached to it. In 1173, during a rebellion against King Henry II, a force of Flemish mercenary soldiers fighting for the rebel earls was destroyed at the Battle of Fornham in St. Genevieve, not far from Suffolk, a massacre. And in the panic and reprisal that can follow a massacre, it is not only soldiers who suffer. The historian Paul Harris has argued that ordinary Flemish settlers, civilians who had lived peaceably in East Anglia for a generation, may have been caught up in the violence that followed, killed, driven out, scattered. 2 children fleeing alone, disoriented, speaking Flemish, not English, dressed in clothes the villagers of Woolpit had never seen, frightened enough and hungry enough to look as strange as a story would need them to look. It's a compelling theory. It is also, on its own timeline, a difficult one. The chroniclers place the children's arrival under King Stephen, who died in 1154. Fornham did not happen until 1173, 19 years later, under a different king entirely. That gap has not gone unnoticed. Other historians, weighing Harris's theory against the chronicle evidence, have remained unconvinced that the dates can be made to fit. The story may simply have drifted in time the way oral memory does, attached to the troubles in general rather than one battle in particular. Or the connection to Fornham may simply be an elegant guess, reaching for a real event to anchor an unreal-sounding tale. Personally, I think that connection is unlikely. Either way, the broader shape of the explanation does not depend on getting one battle right. England in this period was a country full of displaced people, foreign workers and refugees of one civil war or another. A pair of lost, frightened, foreign-speaking children is not in itself an impossible thing to find wandering in a field at that time. Their green colour too has a name, chlorosis, sometimes called green sickness, a form of anemia brought on by poor diet that can give the skin an unusual pallor with a faint green cast. But one detail favours malnutrition over mystery and over malice. Their green colour fades as they begin to eat ordinary food. That is not the behaviour of a supernatural curse or a poisoning left untreated. It is the behaviour of a body recovering. The beans too may point towards hunger rather than magic. Perhaps the children recognised one of the only foods they had known. Perhaps they survived on plants, scraps or field crops. Perhaps they were not refusing human food because they came from another dimension or from fairyland. Perhaps they simply did not recognise it. Who knows? The historian John Clarke has suggested that the story may function less as a record of an event and more as an allegory, a way of making sense of the anarchy itself. Green is the colour of otherness. Children as the innocents lost in a kingdom tearing itself apart, arriving from nowhere because nowhere during a civil war is where so many children effectively came from. No parents, no parish, no name anyone could trace. A society in chaos does not always tell the truth about its chaos directly. Sometimes it tells a story about two strange children and lets the strange just carry what it cannot otherwise say. If the green children were refugees, in fact or in metaphor, then the tale becomes one of the oldest stories in the world. Children crossing a border they did not choose, arriving among strangers, carrying a homeland no one else can see. Their twilight country may have been memory, their lost cave may have been trauma, their vanished doorway may have been childhood itself. Of the two children, the girl survived. That is the part of the story that often gets passed over too quickly, and the part where the legend stops being gentle. The boy dies and becomes part of the mystery forever, frozen, unfinished, a green child who never has to grow into anything else. The girl lives, and living, it turns out, is harder on a myth than dying. She learns the language of the people who found her. She is baptized. She eats their food. Her green colour fades. She goes into service in the household of Richard de Cowney, the same household that took her in as a wanderer from another world. And Ralph of Coggeshall, the chronicler closest to the source, the one who heard this story from de Cowney's own mouth, does not record her afterward as a wonder. He records her as difficult, wanton he calls her, impudent, a deeply unfair judgment of her. A girl once treated as a sign from another world, now written down years later as a servant who gave trouble in the house. The marvel does not stay a marvel, the wonder has an expiry date. She eventually marries a man from King's Lynn, some 40 miles north along the Norfolk coast. William of Newburgh notes that she was still living there, an ordinary married woman, around the time he was writing his chronicle. A green child grown into a wife with an address. No further word. No final confession about St. Martin's Land. No deathbed account of the bells, the cave, or the river between two countries. Just a name that drops out of the record the way most names do. What we do know is colder and more human than the legend. That wonder in this story did not last. It brought her safety, food, a baptism and a household. It did not buy her kindness afterward, or the benefit of the doubt. The same village that marvelled at her colour seems to have judged her character once the colour was gone. Maybe that is the oldest part of the story, older than the bells, older than the twilight country. A stranger is fascinating right up until she has to be lived with, and ordinary people can be the harshest judges. The story did not end with the girl's marriage. It went quiet and then it didn't. 4 centuries the green children all but vanished from English memory. A local curiosity folded into 2 Latin chronicles that few people outside the church were reading. Then, in 1621, the scholar Robert Burton mentioned them in the Anatomy of Melancholy, suggesting that the children had simply fallen from the sky, or heaven in his telling, not earth, not a cave. And in 1638, the Bishop of Hereford, Francis Godwin, published The Man in the Moon, one of the earliest works of English speculative fiction, a tale of a voyager carried to the moon and the strange civilization he finds there. Godwin draws directly upon William of Newborough's account of the green children as he builds his lunar world. Which means that a medieval story about 2 starving children climbing out of a wolf pit sits quietly at the very root of English science fiction. Centuries before anyone spoke of little green men, England had already produced 2 small green children, and a bishop had already used them to imagine a journey to another world entirely. The motif did not stay buried with the chronicles. It went underground for a while, the way the children themselves did, and then came back out into the light, changed in someone else's story. That is, in its way, exactly what the legend has always been about. A door that closes behind you and opens again somewhere else centuries later for someone who was never looking for it. Perhaps that is why the image still lingers. 2 green children from a land of eternal twilight, reminding us that in the imagination 2 worlds can sometimes blend into one. And maybe, after all this time, we can still hear the church bells of St. Martin's Land, tolling at dusk over a simple field in Suffolk. While 2 souls emerge from the